Hello everybody, I hope your day is absolutely amazing. Today I'm going to be making some beautiful shower gels. Now you can make shower gels with fragrance oil, you can also make them with essential oils. This one is going to be with essential oils, so I will show you how I'm actually making this. It's a bit of a process, there's like 3 steps to this process, but once you master those it is not too hard. Now depending on the fragrance or the essential oils, sometimes what happens is you really need to do a small batch to see if they're going to work, because some fragrance oils will thicken it up super duper fast, others will make it thin, others really just don't love it very much, so it really is a little bit of testing. But today we're going to go and start with the first thing. Now I've already put this onto the stove, and basically what it is I'm using some SCI powder. I actually get the flakes and I've ground it down myself, because you have to be very careful with that and wear a mask, and there's lots of things to do because the fine little particles can get into your lungs and you'll cough and cough for hours if that happens. So the first bit is basically cocoa betaine. I know it has a longer word, I'm hopeless at saying it, but it's basically your cocoa betaine with your SCI. Now you can start with levels from say 5% with your SCI, and then of course you can have a much higher percent of your cocoa betaine, but there's so much playing around with the recipes, and honestly about a 5.5% of your SCI is the best percentage I've come up with to date. So I'll tell you sort of what I've done as we've gone along, and like I said, hopefully this gets you going, making your own unique body wash. So let's get going. Now on my stove here I do have the SCI and the cocoa betaine, and I'm sorry if my camera is flashing. The reason it's flashing is because I have a fluorescent light in my kitchen. Now you can see it's like a little bit of a transparency sort of color, and this has been on here for about 45 minutes. You need to actually put it on a double boil for quite some time, so I'm going to keep letting this go and I'll bring you back to show you what it looks like. Now we're going to add the second lot of ingredients into this huge bowl, and then I am going to scrape what I have in the first one into this one so that it's all going to be mixed together. But to keep things simple, let's just work on stage 2. So this is stage 2 and stage 1 is on the stove and it's pretty much done. But this one you can do in advance, you don't need to worry. So the first thing I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be adding in my water in here. So I'm going to add in 980 grams of water. This of course is distilled water. It's not warmed up, nothing too fancy. It's just, put in here to look lovely. And I'm going to just pop that container to the side. So I've got that to the side, and now I do have a little jug which I've got on my scale to the side here. I'm going to tear it out, and then I'm going to do the ingredients so that I can tell you what I'm doing. Now you can change the water. So when we're saying water, do remember water can be things such as aloe vera juice, coconut water, it can be a distilled water, it can be rose water, it can be floral waters. There's so many things, so you're not just stuck to one. So if you get the water and you decide well you want to put other things in it, then you have options to do that. So like I said, we've got our water in here now. The second thing I want to add in is this product. Now this is called hydrolyzed oats. It is so lovely. It's a liquid. You can also add things such as, let's just take a look at this one. This is an extract. So this one here is a beautiful green tea extract. You could use something like this as well, and it's just going to add a beautiful silkiness to our particular shower gels, because if it was just water and the first bit that we did, it's pretty boring, isn't it? And it's really not going to do that much other than clean us and be really soapy and a little bit cleansing. So we want to add a couple other things in it. So like I said, I'm going to actually add the green tea tree extract in this one, and in this I want 10 grams. So I've weighed that out and I'm just going to pop that in here. This is going to make probably about 11 bottles of gel, so 250 gram ones, depending, look, I always put a little bit extra in mine. So pretty much you can see all the water base we're just going to be adding into this. So I'm just going to put my jug back onto the scale so that we can measure things as we go along. Now, the next thing I want to add in is this beautiful thing. Now, let me move this aside so I can show you. This is actually aloe vera gel in its beautiful form. Like, doesn't this look just divine? It's so beautiful. So we want to add some of this in, and this is really going to bring just such a cooling, beautiful element to this. We can't say benefit, so I can't say that word, but it just does feel beautiful. So I want to add 30 grams to this. And once, like I said, if you don't have this, you can add water instead of this, and that can be your portion. As long as we are reaching around the 30 grams of this or water, you're going to add an extra 30 grams if that's what you want to add in it. So I've just added it in here. So let's just now pour it into this bit. And basically, you're in no hurry to do this bit. You're just going to really slowly add everything in that you want to add in, and we're just going to give it a little beautiful mix, aren't we? So let's just add that in here. And I'm going to just add that to the side just a little bit. So now we've mixed that in, so I'm going to put my little cup onto my scale, which is just to the side, just otherwise I will run out of room. So now what do we want in here? Now we've done our gel. So the next thing that I actually want to add is my glycerin in here. So I'm going to add 200 grams. Even though I have changed my recipe back and forward a few times, I really love it with 250 grams, but that would mean that you would need to take a portion of the water back out of this. So and glycerin's going to make it a bit thicker, so it would just depend on how you want that. So let's just add our gorgeous glycerin in here, and this is just going to add to make it absolutely beautiful. So let's just make sure we get every ounce out of this container. And look, if you see lots of things I make, it doesn't mean that you need to make all of those things. There might just be a few extra things that you may want to bring to your range. But one thing that I have learnt lately after speaking to many people is, look, sometimes we can have too many things. We all get excited about making so many things. And there are some things I make for my family and don't sell. So, you don't have to sell everything. Now, if you want to add a colour, you could do it now. One thing I'm going to tell you is I did that at the start, and it was definitely a mistake, because then you can't tell how dark it's going to go with all the ingredients. So I just say, do all of these ingredients first, and we can come back and add other things a little bit later. So now we've added most of those. Now, my star ingredient in this is this beautiful product that comes from Germany. So if you can have a look. And I can't remember what it's actually called, glycerol olate, and I may be saying it wrong, and I'm sorry if I am. I actually bought this from a company on eBay. I will actually put the links on eBay so that you all know where to get it from. It's a beautiful conditioning product as well. It's just so beautiful. And at the end, we are also going to add some beautiful vitamin B, but that will be in the next stage. So for this stage, this is going to be the last product that I want to actually put in here. So this particular one, I want to add 40 grams of this product. So I'm just going to weigh it out just to make sure I'm weighing everything out right on my scale. So what did we say? 40 grams. And if you want to add more of this, you could add more of this and take some of the glycerin out as well. So there's no right or wrong. It's just however you want your recipe to be. So I'm just going to put that in there, and I'll have to clean up my jar in a minute because I just kind of poured it in willy-nilly, which is in here. So now I'm just going to pour that into here, and it looks very much like glycerin. So let's just pour this into this. You just want to make sure we get everything out of here so that the measurements are right. Now, this is pretty much it. So now what I want to do is get the other product that I've already got on the stove. I want to get that off and I want to add that straight into here. So I'm going to go and get that and I will bring you back. All right, everyone, we are back. Now, this is really hot, so I don't want to add that straight into this other bowl that is cold, because glass using something that's super hot going into something that's cold can actually crack the glass. And I don't want to crack my beautiful, expensive clear KitchenAid bowl that my children and husband actually bought me for Christmas. So we're going to let this cool down just a little bit. Now, I wanted to show you this texture. So I'm going to get nice and close and hopefully I don't drop it off the spoon. Now, if you can you see how it looks transparent? It looks sticky like glue, which is fine. That's what we want, because if it doesn't have a bit of a transparent look, it generally means that you have not put this on the double boil long enough, and it means there may be chunks of the SCI, and if there is, then it's just not going to look beautiful. And I'm going to show you when I made a mistake so that you can see what I'm talking about. So now I made these purple ones. Now, if I get close, can you see how it's got these little bits here? It's because that wasn't melted properly with the SCI. I added in the water-soluble dye, no micas, just a water-soluble dye, but I added too much. So these ones I don't feel happy to sell because they're not as perfect as I want them to be. So these ones will be just for us at home, and you know, so that's basically what it is. And I will show you, even though I won't be selling it, I'll show you the texture. So this is the texture. So it's a lovely texture. But when I made my one that's a Barry's Daughter that has more vanilla in, it is definitely not as thin as this one. It is definitely much, much thicker. So if you want it thicker, you may want to up your SCI and lower your cocoa betaine and so on. So like there's lots of things that you need to do. But that's just a little bit of an idea, and you can see it is quite kind of slippery. It is not as thick as the other one is, but it can take up to 10 days before you will see its true color. So that's a little bit about that, and then I will tell you where I got all of these from as well. So let me just go and wash my glove and I'll come back. Now, also, if you're making these products, it is really important to pH test them. You can use the strips, which will just give you a rough idea, but of course you would really need to use a pH meter. So you can get them from many suppliers now. You can also get them on Amazon. There is so many places that you can get them. So just look in your country or your soap supplier. Most soap suppliers will actually have them, and they're, you know, you can get them amazing. Another tool that is super important to have is an infrared thermometer. I mean, that will be your best friend, I promise you. I'll show you my one. So this is my one. It is stained with wax. No matter how much I clean it, I just cannot. And it's saying here that we're at 56 degrees Celsius, that is. So, you know, I want this to come down just a tiny bit, maybe to around 40, and then I'm happy to put it in the water, but we don't want to do that before that. And that's why it's sitting on this chopping board too, just so that it doesn't burn the bench or anything. Now, we also do need a preservative, everybody. So it's super important to add a preservative to the water base that we have, and the preservative needs to cover this amount and the other amount. Now, this is actually a 2 kilogram amount, so you can use something such as this, which is Optifin Plus. Most people use it, or you know, your Germal Plus is probably the better choice for more of a liquid one. I always think Optifin Plus is really good when you're making lotions and that has more oils or fats in, but either way, both of them will still work. So if you only have one, you can use one over the other. But once again, that's all about your testing, isn't it? And you will find that this looks like glue. If you can kind of see, it does look like clag glue. That's what it reminds me of. And it does have a distinctive kind of I don't know what the smell is. It reminds me of like warm clag. Really, it does. I'm not sure whether you have that in every country, but in Australia, when we were children at school, you used to get clag, which is glue, and that was paper glue. So it was just like a non-toxic paper glue that children would use at school. So that's what it reminds me of. But anyway, that is for that. So we have done that, haven't we? So let's just put this one aside. Like I said, I'm going to add my Optifin just straight into the water bowl. And I'm just going to move this one out the way. And it is important, like I said, to make sure that you're adding in everything that you need to add in. Don't forget the preservative. You'll not be happy with yourself if you forget the preservative. And all preservatives have different usage. So please do check that out. Make sure you're just checking the usage as well. And don't worry if you feel like something's sitting on top here, because once this product goes into it, it's going to help it along. So like I said, we are going to wait for the other bit to cool down a tiny bit. Then we're going to slowly add it in and slowly mix it up. And then it is going to be beautiful. And, you know, after we've done this, we're going to leave it a while before we add the next few ingredients in it. So there are a few ingredients in this. You can cut down your ingredient list if you want to. But I suggest that you do keep these beautiful products in it. And, you know, the glycerol olate, that is the one ingredient that I think you really need. It's very cleansing without that. I've tried many different options. I've even tried recipes I found online, and a lot of them are quite cleansing. So I haven't tried them all, of course. And, you know, that's the thing too. I will tell you that I feel, this is my opinion only, but I really feel like shower gel to me is more cleansing than soap, than a really good avocado, olive, and shea cocoa butter soap. So for me, I do use cold processed soap when I wash it myself or my family. That's just personally what I choose to use. But everyone's different what they want to use. So you do need to add other things, because even though we're using mild ingredients in here, sometimes they can feel a little cleansing. But, you know, like I said, with all these extra beautiful things in, they feel absolutely beautiful. Even though I'm not 100% happy with the purple one I showed you, which won't be sold, that's still lovely for us in our home. It's just, honestly, a cosmetic look only. There's no other reason why. Anyway, I will bring you back once this has cooled down a little bit. Alright, it's cooled down a little bit, so I am literally just going to add it in a little scoop at a time. You don't have to do this, but I just, look, I've tried a few where I've poured the water portion directly into the gloopy solution, and I just felt that it didn't mix as well as this way. So because I did the purple one the opposite way, and I just felt that it didn't mix as well. So anyway, this is the way that I felt. There's really no wrong or right. It just depends on, you know, whatever works for you, really. And once we have put this in here, what we actually need to do, we need to leave it. So we need to leave this with just a piece of plastic film on the top. And we're actually going to leave this overnight. And the reason for it is these claggy bits that, you know, that we're adding in, they need time for the water to absorb into their little molecules, just to make a beautiful product. And we don't want to use a stick blender or anything else. You know, I'm sure lots of people may think, oh, maybe that's a good idea, but then the bubbles are going to go crazy, and we don't want to just have a big milkshake of bubbles, do we? We want it to be beautiful. So, like I said, you know, the tortoise wins the race. You know, the slow way sometimes is the really much better way. And today I did think of doing some bath bombs to show all of you, but for anyone overseas that may not know, tonight in Australia, which today is Thursday, we are waiting for a cyclone that is about to hit Queensland in Australia. So my fingers are crossed that all the Queenslanders are okay. And where it's going to hit is where my dad used to own a home. And my dad just after he actually sold his home. A cyclone hit there, a massive cyclone hit, and many of the homes went down or were destroyed. So that part of Queensland is very well known for cyclones. You know, it really is. But either way, it's still not great, is it? You know, it's not something anyone wants to deal with. And of course, we've had flooding. Like in Australia this time of year, it should be 30 to 40 degrees Celsius, our weather. But we've just had rain over rain, and it's kind of funny in January to see people walking around with a cardigan or a jumper or a coat on. I'm like, what is happening with our weather here? So we really have missed our summer, everybody. It's been terrible. And I know I do have lots of friends watching me from all other countries, you know, so it's not just Australia or the US. I know I have some beautiful friends from Japan, Germany, Dubai. Where else do I have friends from? Of course the UK, of course the US, you know, many other countries, Trinidad as well. And I know like all of our countries are different, the way that, you know, our weather's hit. And I was actually telling a follower the other day that I haven't seen snow for decades. We have to actually go into the mountains to see snow. We don't get snow where I am, and most parts of Australia do not get snow. There are some parts, but mostly it's, you know, the big ski hills that people go to, but a lot of places don't. If they do, it's usually the tiniest little bit, you know, and it's like a freak storm, but most places in Australia don't. Anyway, you can see now it is all looking beautiful. So I am going to leave this. I'm going to just put a little bit of plastic wrap over the top. And it's got its preservative in here. Remember, it's got its water, its glycerin, everything else that we want to go in here. So we are going to leave this now, like I said, with a bit of wrap on the top. And then I'm going to come back tomorrow and we'll check how it's going. Hello lovelies, it is the next day and here we are looking all beautiful and sudsy. I've done a few tests and everything's looking amazing. But what we want to do now is we just want to colour it. So we're just going to add the colour and we're also going to add the fragrance. So here in my bowl, I'm just going to flip the camera down. I'm going to show you what I'm doing with the water soluble dyes. Don't use micas because it will sink to the bottom. So you do need to use a water soluble dye. So let's get going. So here I do have a little glass and I have some distilled water just in the lid. So we're just going to pour the smallest amount. It's probably like half a teaspoon. And here I have the water soluble dyes. We literally only need this much, just the end of a spoon. And you can see straight away it's going to be this gorgeous blue. Now, you know, when I did the last one, I added in too much, and honestly, you could probably just literally dip the end of this straight in there, and that's probably going to be more than enough, and then mix it to see what color you want to come up with. That is my suggestion for doing something like this, because, you know, these colors are super duper bright, so 1 or 2 drops is probably all you're going to need. So I am literally just going to flick a couple little drops on top and see how I'm going. You can always add more, but obviously you can't take some out. And if you can already see the blue, and then we're just going to mix it. And I want this to be just a really slight blue. I definitely don't want something crazy, but if you feel like this is not enough for you, then of course you can add more. I'm just going to add one more little tiny bit. This is not even a drop, it's like just a speckle that I'm just sort of shaking off the end of my mixer. So and this is just to show all of you as well. Now sometimes overnight, even when you leave it, you'll see a little bit of clumping from the glycerin. You can just use a sieve or a sifter just to sift it out if you like. And then this is what we're going to come up with. It still looks lovely, doesn't it? Like, it looks so beautiful, but like I said, that's pretty much all we're going to do. Now we're just going to add the fragrance and then we're ready to go. Hello everyone, we are back. So I ended up putting a little bit of a purple color in this one because we're going to make this one lavender. So here I have my fragrance oil in here. I actually use the lavender from Pure Candle Supplies. It is really strong and it does also have essential oils in the mix of this, and it's really strong. So we're only going to use 1%, so I'm just going to pour about 1% in, and don't be tempted to add more, because if you add more it's, you know, not going to be the right thing, because adding too much can actually, you know, affect people. So try not to add more. Now I know this looks white and creamy, but it should go clear in several days. Sometimes with fragrance or essential oils it will not. I do want to do an essential oil one. I was going to do this one essential, but then I thought, oh, I really need to get this one going. So anyway, we have mixed it in, haven't we? Just make sure you mix it in super well with your spoon. And it does look creamy. So this is the consistency. It is not super thick. It is not super thin. So, you know, to me, it's just the right one. And it will thicken up a tiny bit. So don't feel like it's not going to. So here is the jar. And I know once it gets to just past the lip of it, then it is the 250 that I want. So basically, if you use something like this, it is easier to pour in. It would take time to pour in. If I had a bigger one than this one here, it would come much easier in here, but it doesn't really matter, does it? I mean, if I was doing 500 of these, I would definitely be putting this through a machine, but you know, I'm not up to that standard at the moment, everybody, or that stage in my soapy career. So anyway, like I said, it's really just to show all of you. And just make sure that you do sanitize this as well, because that's also going into the container. And like I said, even though it looks foamy and so on now, it will end up being just really nice, light sort of clear color. But as I did say, some fragrance oils won't stay clear. They will change a little bit. We just need a tiny bit more in to the top. Then we'll go to the next one. If you feel confident, you could literally pour this directly into these containers, but the tops aren't super big. And these containers I'm using are exactly the same size container and the same shape that they use at Body Works and places like that. So they're pretty much the professional looking ones that I've seen around everywhere else. So look how beautiful it looks. So while this one is doing its thing, let me just put this on, and I'm just going to add some more in here so that this one's doing its job while we're talking. And now I'm going to show you the lids that we do. So I'll just go grab them and then I'll come back. So these are the lids that I'm using. So it's just like a little flip top. If you can see the tiny bit at the top, that's where the solution would come out of. These are generally the ones that you would have in a shower. These are safe to go in a shower too, everybody, because they are a PET. So doesn't it look beautiful? Now all we're going to do is put the label and everything on that. I'm hoping to get some labels made up, but you know, everything takes time, doesn't it? So anyway, you could make your own label and put it in that one if you like. So I'm going to get going with the rest of these, and don't they look beautiful? All right, everyone, we are going to do a test in my sink. I'm just going to pour some leftovers on here, and then we will scrub it up. And this is how sort of scrubby it's going to be. So you can see it is very, very soapy and gorgeous. So this is exactly what it's going to look like. And doesn't it look gorgeous? Anyway, we have done. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you give me a thumbs up. I'll see you on the next video. Bye, friends. Let's see if we can talk about